You record your conflicts through rigid dates: the exact year the first shots are fired, the day the treaties are signed. You organize history by the leaders who commanded the armies and the new borders drawn when the dust finally settles. The records say 16 million died in the First World War and roughly 60 million in the Second. These numbers are so massive, so incomprehensible, that they lose their emotional weight. They turn human suffering into sterile data points on a page. I am the soil beneath your soldiers, the ground beneath those shifting borders. You call me Earth, and I remember these events very differently than your history books do. You misunderstand the nature of war because you only measure the violence when the fighting is active. By only looking at the time between the first shot and the final signature, you ignore the true, prolonged timeline of destruction. A war does not actually start when the weapons arrive on the battlefield. It begins long before that. The preparation requires massive ecological extraction. Iron, copper, and cadmium must be pulled from the soil to manufacture those weapons. Vast fields are drained of oil to supply the fuel needed to move military vehicles across continents. At the exact same time, a psychological extraction takes place. Political speeches and daily rhetoric slowly strip away empathy, conditioning populations to view their own neighbors as legitimate targets. By the time a formal declaration is made and the first actual shot rings out, the conflict is already fully matured. The physical landscape has been torn apart, and the human mind has already been weaponized. To understand the actual scale of the violence, we have to look past the millions of casualties. We have to look at a single mother setting one fewer plate at the dinner table, one empty chair at a time. And the dead are not the only people war takes. Right now, nearly 118 million people worldwide are forcibly displaced by conflict. Individuals abruptly pack their childhood homes, their traditions, and their entire lives into plastic bags and suitcases. As these populations are pushed outward, the conflict also reaches backward into time. Armies target museums, libraries, mosques, and churches to deliberately erase the evidence that a community ever existed. At sites like Palmyra in Syria, ancient statues and temples were not accidentally caught in the crossfire. They were systematically destroyed. When you shatter a community's art and monuments, you sever the conversation between future generations and their ancestors. You burn away parts of the collective human story, permanently written into the landscape. The boundary of the battlefield rarely stays where you draw it. Forests, river systems, and wildlife populations are drafted into human conflicts, suffering the consequences of ideologies they cannot comprehend. Sometimes the natural world is deliberately weaponized. During the Vietnam War, militaries sprayed millions of liters of chemical defoliants, like Agent Orange, over dense tropical forests and farmlands to strip away cover. In the Gulf War, retreating forces set hundreds of Kuwaiti oil wells on fire. Oil flooded the water, and massive plumes of toxic smoke poisoned the sky long after the active fighting ceased. This animated chart shows the global greenhouse gas emissions generated by the military sector. Simply maintaining the supply chains, bases, and vehicles to prepare for conflict accounts for roughly 5.5% of all global emissions. The planet is forced to absorb these toxic remnants. Unrecorded ecological casualties pile up in silence, and you will never find their names listed on any military peace treaty. To cope with this immense destruction, humans often point to a silver lining. You argue that the extreme fear and urgency of combat unlocks sudden funding, forcing scientists and engineers to collaborate at speeds rarely seen in times of peace. The Second World War forced the rapid, massive-scale production of penicillin. What was once a difficult laboratory experiment was scaled up in massive fermentation tanks to treat wounded soldiers, ultimately saving millions of civilian lives from bacterial infection. But that exact same scientific urgency and rapid collaboration also built the atomic bomb. The human mind calculated how to eradicate disease, and in the very same breath engineered a way to vaporize a city in seconds. The intense rivalry of the Cold War pushed this intelligence even further. The competition to outmaneuver a geopolitical enemy accelerated rocket science, launched astronauts to the moon, and built the early satellite navigation systems that eventually became the GPS in your phone. Some claim that destruction is the mother of progress. It is not. Progress comes entirely from human intelligence. War simply holds a weapon to that intelligence and demands that it work faster. You call the time after the shooting stops post-war, but the ground does not experience a clean break. Heavy metals like lead and cadmium remain in the soil. Buried landmines wait silently beneath ordinary grass for children who were not even born when the conflict ended. The human mind also refuses to sign the armistice. Generational trauma rewires communities, making a slamming door sound like an explosion, trapping survivors in a mental state of conflict long after the armies withdraw. I do not measure peace by ink on paper. Peace is marked by the moment birds return to a scorched canopy. It is measured by whether a child can walk across a field without terror, and whether a culture can remember its past without using it as a reason to hate. Until humanity realizes that a war does not end until the land and the mind are fully healed, your treaties will remain an illusion. You will continue to build grand memorials to the fallen, only to immediately lay the groundwork for the next ruins.